Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to City Skylines 2 and welcome back to Columbia County. In today's episode, and based on your feedback, we're going to be overhauling and upgrading the medical service in Blackwater with an entirely new modern hospital. And that's going to include a bunch of new modern housing as a part of that hospital development. And then once all of that's done, I've got some sad news. We're going to be starting work on and finishing the final suburb in all of Blackwater, which means we are almost at the point where we're going to be going out into Columbia County and starting work on a brand new town. We're not doing that today, but we're very, very close. So let's get to it. So I was recently reading through the comments on some of the episodes of this series, and I saw one that stood out to me because it was talking about the service capabilities of Blackwater, especially given that we are going to be developing Columbia County into a county that has several towns, with Blackwater sort of being the middle of all of that. Specifically, I kind of thought about healthcare and how every now and then we have issues like this pop up where we have a sim that is sick and waiting for an ambulance. And this happens a lot. And it seems to go in waves. It's kind of like the death waves from City Skylines 1, just people aren't dying, they're just sick. It happens a lot, and I don't really know why it's happening. And so that kind of reminded me of something that my hometown in Northern Ireland did back at the end of the 90s, which is start building a totally new hospital, a totally modern hospital for the end of the 90s. And they also built some housing projects in a few adjacent neighborhoods to house all of the new doctors that were going to have to work in this hospital, because they were closing a hospital in another town and this hospital was going to cover the entirety of the North Coast. It was a whole thing. People were very excited about it and they built a lot of things. And so to make this happen, I'm going to clear a whole bunch of space from the middle of Blackwater, which it hurts a little bit to do this. I'm not going to lie. I don't love getting rid of all of these buildings, but I think in the long run, this is going to be much, much better for Blackwater. I think things are going to, just generally be better. I also just got rid of a bus stop by accident, which I'd like to put that back. That's supposed to be there. That is 100% supposed to be there. So we'll just do the sign as per usual. We'll go and get our bus line, which needs to go there. Everything's fixed. Okay. So with all of this gone, we are going to rezone some of this, and some of this we're going to play around with Find It to build sort of manually, but we're going to be doing that a little bit later on. What I also need to do is get rid of this medical clinic. So we're going to bulldoze you. We are going to bulldoze this parking lot. We are going to bulldoze Victoria Lane. We are going to bulldoze all of the surfaces that we don't need in here anymore. And we're also going to be bulldozing these parks. This entire space is getting cleared out. And with that done, we're pretty much left with a pretty solid canvas to work with. So what I'd like to do is sort of prepare the space that we're working with here. And I'm going to do that in a couple of ways. Way number one is I want to go through and get rid of the grass on this side of this avenue, because I just don't really think we're going to be needing it, because ambulances are going to be going in and out. We'll have the wider sidewalk because I think that makes sense. And I think grass down the middle might actually be better. It does get rid of the parking and it does get rid of the wide sidewalk, but I actually kind of like the idea of having some grass down there. And I think just to get it out of the way, we'll put some poplar trees down the middle of this road as well. I just think it looks pretty solid. It's a nice little extension of Franklin Boulevard where we have poplar trees all over the place. So that's pretty solid. When it comes to this alleyway, what I would like to do is replace it with a 2-lane perpendicular parking road, which is going to live right about there and right about there. When it comes to this road, we're going to replace it with the 2-lane divided perpendicular parking road, which is a lot of words very fast. I'm kind of surprised I didn't trip over my words saying that, but it's going to go right about there. And for this space, I want to extend the parking road just a little bit further. So it's going to go from here to about there. And that's what we're looking for. So this side above King Street and around this lane is all going to be redeveloped for healthcare. It's going to have a hospital. It's going to have some new housing. It's going to be mixed use housing. So there will be some shops in there. That's what we're looking for. Now, we don't need this lane anymore because I'm going to be getting some very, very dense zoning into this space. When it comes to this side of things, I think what we're going to do is get rid of the lane. I think we're also seeing, ooh, interesting. We are seeing, I think, that homeless bug again, which might be because some of these buildings are quite old. I'm not really too sure why that's happening. I thought that was fixed, but apparently not. Okay, well, that's interesting. I don't know if I have bye-bye homeless enabled, but we'll have a very quick look and see. I do not, so okay. We're not going to worry too much about that. I can just, I hate doing this, but I can kind of just go in and delete them. So we'll just delete all the people. We'll just delete everybody that's kind of standing around there a little bit unhappy about me, you know, bulldozing their houses, just to make sure that the game doesn't start to struggle a little bit. There we go. So that space is all cleared out in more horrible ways than one. And what I'd like to do is go in with some row housing. So we're going to use EU row housing for this space just to change it up a little bit. And I'm doing my usual trick to make sure that it's all facing the right way. I don't want those tiny little buildings in there. I don't know what you guys think you're doing, but we want some full-size row houses in there. And I think what we're also going to do is just go through here with a very basic path down here instead of the lane that we had. I think this looks a little bit better, and I think I can have some fun with a little bit of detailing down here. So we can do some bushes. We'll use the line tool, maybe something a little bit bigger. I think this one's pretty solid, and we're going to go from about here all the way down to the other side, right about there. We'll do the same thing on this side as well, which is going to go to about there. And then between these guys, I'm kind of thinking we do the cultivated one. So we get a little bit of color into this space just to make it look a little bit different. So it's going to run all the way down to this end of things, which needs to be a little bit further apart. Let's try 6 meters apart for these guys. Does that look better? It absolutely does. So right in the middle of all of those guys on that side, and right in the middle of all of them on that side as well. And I think that looks okay. That'll let people walk up and down. It'll be nice between the European row houses. I think that's a pretty solid setup that we have going on. So for all of this space, we're going to have to do one thing first. We need to go into our development panel. We need to go to healthcare. We need to spend 2 of our 55 development points on getting hospitals. And we have some choices. The regular hospital that was in base game City Skylines 2 is perhaps a little bit too big for the space. We have things like the modern medical clinic, which is all well and good, but these guys don't have a lot of ambulances, and I think that's part of the problem. So I'm leaning towards the modern hospital that came with the modern architecture creator pack, because it will fit perfectly in this space. Obviously, there's space around it that I can play with, I can detail, and I can have some fun with, but it fits really, really nicely in this entire space, and that's kind of what I'm looking for. It is $1.14 million. It is a lot of money per month, but we can absolutely afford that. And I think it's for the best that we go ahead and also get the extension tower. So we're going to be going from 300 potential patients up to a total of 750 potential patients with a little helicopter on the roof there as well. So this thing really is going to be the central medical center for all of Columbia County. That's why I've got all this parking around it. That's why I've got all this space around it. That's why I'm trying to make sure that cars can get around and everything's going to be okay. And I'm also thinking that I can go in here very quickly and get a little bit of grass down there. That might actually look pretty cool to get some poplar trees over here as well. There we go. I like that a lot. I love the parking roads, man. I really do. I really, really love the parking roads. And speaking of parking roads, I actually downgraded the parking roads in our most recent commercial development to just have 2 lanes because this space really isn't all that busy. And I figured, you know, it might look a little bit nicer sort of set up like this. And I happen to really like it. And I suppose while we're talking about roads, you might have noticed already that my roads don't have the same markings that they usually do. I've installed a couple of new mods, and one of them lets you control the opacity, the texture, the brightness of the road wear. So you can sort of see it, but it's not as bright as it usually is, and I kind of like this. And just while we're talking about those new mods, one of them also recategorizes all of the residential zoning, so that's why it's all sort of split up into these tabs now. It's just a little bit neater. And this is also a good opportunity to explain the third mod, which just replaces the icons for the region packs with the flags in the way that the European flag is there and the North American flag is there. It just works a little bit better. It all comes together nicely. I just thought it was a nice little sort of quality of life thing. And speaking of quality of life, apparently it's quite bad right now because a lot of people happen to want ambulances. So it's probably a good thing that we do in fact have, 30 of them that have all been dispatched across Blackwater right now. And I'm sure that includes the helicopter as well. Yeah, so it's this is definitely a good upgrade. Now, I will say I don't want to go in here in detail just yet. We are going to do that 100%. That is going to happen, but I think we should get some buildings in here before we go too crazy with all of that. And I'm going to be using some of the urban promenades buildings because I figure I can make these work and I figure I can make this look sort of interesting. Now, they do have grass on top of them, which I don't know if that's a Blackwater thing, but I'm gonna do it anyway because I just want to get a nice little dense square of buildings in that space. And that's basically what I'm looking for right there. We're also going to use move it very quickly to grab all of these guys and make sure that they are in fact all the same height as that intersection, which they now are. And then between them, I want to go and I want to put just a regular pedestrian street. So it's going to live right in there so people can walk up and down between these buildings. Now, the way I'm looking at these is as an extension of the hospital development. I like to imagine that the company that put together the hospital or whatever governing body is in charge of the hospital also purchased this land to build, well, some shops, which is going to service everybody, but also the apartments above, which can be for staff at the hospital. That was kind of the main focus of this development here. So that's why it's maybe a little bit more modern. It sort of ties into the more modern vibe that we have going on with the hospital as well. I'm winging it, man. I don't know anything about, how these things work. I don't know anything about development and government. I'm just making it up. This is the type of roleplay stuff that I did as a kid playing SimCity. I'm just like, oh, the government bought it. The government did it. That's my extent of, of city development, is just the government did it. The government can do everything. That's how it is. I also don't know if I actually like the look of this. I might have a better idea for what we can do with this to make it look a little bit more interesting. And I think what we're going to do is go down to some little 2x2 buildings, and I'm going to sort of play around with levels a little bit because I like this. I think this is a really cool looking little corner piece. So we're going to put that on pretty much all of the corners. And then we need something that's going to be 4 wide. And maybe, can I get 3? Can I get 4? I can get 4 on depth as well. And I think what we'll do is put some of these guys in here. So again, we kind of get that little bit of variety going on with the styles of the buildings and the colors and all that stuff, which I think is very important. So I'm going to say these guys can live here and here. And then we're going to need some 2x2 buildings, which might be these guys. Although I don't love the texture in the front of it. So we'll go for something a bit higher, which I think these guys are kind of perfect for. And I think that's just a bit more interesting looking. I might go so far as increasing the height of these guys, just because I think that might look a little better if we go a bit bigger with those. So we'll have a look. Oh no. Oh no. Suddenly I don't know about that. Suddenly maybe a level 1 version of these buildings would be better. No. We'll stick with the level 3 is what we'll do. We'll definitely stick with the level 3 and maybe even rotate them around so they face the hospital. And I do think that is a little bit more interesting than what we had going on. I do wonder though, if I can start to bring some colors into all of this and kind of have everything match a little bit. So the red brick on this building, can I extend that into this guy? Apparently not. That does not look like the same shade at all, although it looks like I could maybe sort of mess around with this a little bit and kind of get it to match. That's pretty close, I want to say. I think that's about as good as we're going to get. So let's see what else I can change on this guy. That's going to be changing nothing that I can really see. And this is changing. Oh, interesting. That changes sort of the frames of all the windows. Okay. What if I copy you, put you there, and then make that a lot darker. Oh, I don't know about that. Maybe lighter is actually going to be the way to go on this. I think that's what we're going to go for there. Something a little bit lighter. We're going to copy this and apply it to the rest of these buildings so it all sort of brings that red together. I want to copy that shade of red and then go to this guy and see what fun we can have. So this is... Okay, so that's the frame at the top, which is fine. We'll make that nice and kind of a bright color. This gray, I'm assuming, is that accent color. So we'll put that red in there to kind of bring it together. And this is... That's the frame again. What is this one? This is just the... Oh, it's those bits as well. Can I make those that same color as well? I actually don't mind that. I think that's okay. So we'll paste that onto this other one right there. And that just brings that sort of red tone around all of these buildings. And I think it makes them feel a little bit more grounded in Blackwater. I think it's just, it fits a little bit more. The only thing I think we need to do is select all of these buildings, make sure they're level, make sure everything's okay, and then figure out this space. And I think when it comes to this space, I'm just going to use more of the 2x2 buildings. We'll just use a smaller variant of the 2x2 buildings so that everything's going to be playing kind of nicely here. So we'll go for about there, which gives us all of our corner pieces. And then I need to figure out what exactly we're going to do in terms of the rest of these buildings. And I like these ones a lot. I really do. I kind of like I like the colors in the front of them. So we'll put those in there, which means we need another, I want to say 4x4 or 4x3 building for whatever this is going to be. 4x4, this scale is this guy. I think that works. I actually think that comes together really nicely. It's all the same buildings as this side, just lower level, which I'm totally fine with. And I also love that they all have poplar trees around them. So it just makes my, it makes my life so much easier because I don't have to go and do all of that detailing, which is absolutely fantastic. So I think we'll start with these guys. And for colors, I'm going to go for sort of a bluish color, and I'm going to throw some purple at it as well. A little bit less saturated though, and maybe a little bit less saturation, a little bit less vibrance in the blue as well. I think that looks okay. And for the white, I don't know. Oh, that changes the front of the building. Ooh, we can go very bright with that if we want to. We'll go a little brighter and then just copy that entire thing and put it on the rest of those buildings. And I think that's a good start. I'm kind of curious to see what it would do to here. Ooh. Oh, we're getting so much color into this. I love it. These guys are a little bit gray on the corners, but I think I'm okay with that. Yeah. Okay. So that's the new development, basically. That's the bulk of it. Just a bunch of apartments, a bunch of shops. It's all going to be there to sort of service the hospital. I think that's pretty good. It's a little out of character for Blackwater, but I do think getting rid of some of those lower density houses makes sense. And I think a little bit more density in here for the hospital makes sense as well. And then speaking of the hospital, well, now we need to go in and start playing with some surfaces. So what I'm going to do is basically grab this, grab as many of these surfaces as I can. If it's going to let me grab that corner, and we're just going to bring these guys down. And then go in and start taking out some of the details on this asset. So what I'd like to do is take out all of these trees. I want to take out these very specific hedges that we have here. And I want to take out these trees as well. I didn't want to get rid of that hedge, but apparently it's, oh no, that's, I'm clicking on all of the wrong things, man. I kind of want that parking back. Oh, and the only way to do it is going to be to sort of update the building. Oh, that's really unfortunate. Oh, I'm gonna have to do all those surfaces again. Okay, let me put the building back here. Oh, it kept some of them. That's good. Okay. And now we're good. Now the trees are gone. I still have the parking. Everything is okay. Now what I would like to do is come through and start to get this grass surface to fill up all of the space, because as it turns out, the majority of this hospital, in fact, all of this hospital has manicured grass around it. So it only kind of makes sense that we would kind of do the same thing. So I'm just going to bring it through all of these spaces that I'm working with. Gonna bring it right through to here as well. And I'm gonna try to just use the one surface texture to make as much of this happen as I possibly can so that I don't have to go too crazy adding more surfaces. Not that that's really a huge deal. It's easy enough to add surfaces in Cities 2, but I don't know. I like doing it this way. I don't know why. I haven't really figured that out yet. But apparently it is gonna misbehave, which is a bit odd. That's new. Okay. Can I drag that out? Yeah, we can do that. Can I bring this up to here? We can do that. Okay, so now we have the surface, which is fantastic news. I think before I go ahead and do too much more detailing with trees and hedges and bushes and all that stuff, I would like to go through and do some invisible pedestrian paths, because this makes it so much easier to, or it is so much easier to do when you don't have trees everywhere. So basically, I'm gonna let people kind of walk down here and the entire way around this facility as much as is reasonable, I guess. We'll let them kind of walk across here as well, so they can go all the way over to this parking lot, which I think is fine. They can walk from that parking lot to the street as well. And they can walk from the street into here. They can walk from here up to this spot as well. Same with these guys, and the same with these paths down here as well. This one can even go right through to there, I suppose. And I think that'll give people a way to just sort of walk around the entire space. And that's kind of what I'm looking for. It also looked like there was, yeah, a little bit of path right here. I want to say that this was maybe from one of the parks that used to be in this space. In fact, I think this one as well. I think these might be from some of the parks that I had in here once upon a time. So I'm going to take out those little invisible paths because we don't really need them anymore. And that makes things a little bit easier, kind of easier to see what's going on now that we don't have the old paths. I do wonder if it would be worth connecting them through here as well, so people could walk sort of across here and the entire way around. I'm not against doing that. That's a lot of ambulances, good Lord. There's a lot going on there. I think that's exactly what we will do, is we'll kind of bring a little path sort of down here, up to there, through to here, and maybe, I don't know, up to there. It doesn't make a lot of sense that people would be walking through the grounds of the hospital, but I want it to look busy, and so that's kind of why I'm doing this. And I suppose next up, we have to start putting some fences or walls or hedges around this, and I kind of got thinking about that idea, and I kind of love the idea that this hospital might use some of the bricks from the old wall that was around the old medical center to sort of fence itself off. I think that's kind of cool. Again, don't necessarily know if that's a realistic thing they would do, but I think it's a cool idea. And also these walls are a lot thinner than the hedges would be for for the boundary here. So I think this kind of makes sense. I will do some hedges though. I think it'd be kind of cool to have a mix of things going on. Like I said, you know, maybe some of the bricks were saved. Maybe they dismantled the walls instead of just tearing them down. I don't really know. I don't know what they did. Government did it. That's that's gonna be the recurring theme. Is, you know, government did it. They did what they wanted to do, and that was that. All right, we will have to do some little bushes through here, or I could just take those out, I suppose, rather than worrying too much about continuing that design through there. I think that'll be okay. I might move this hedge forward a little bit. I don't know if we need to do that either, but I think what we'll do is we'll go in, we'll get ourselves this low hedge, and we'll start to surround this space with some hedges, which is so much thicker than the wall. It's a little bit ridiculous, but you know what? It'll be okay. We'll just surround that space. We can surround, I want to say, this space as well. Should absolutely have some hedges around it. We can do some trees in there, and I think that'll look pretty good. I'm even tempted to say that we bring the hedges kind of down here. I think that might look kind of interesting, and then just sort of connect it to the wall a little bit. I don't know if I love that, but I'm gonna do that anyway, because bulldozing these, I mean, it's not impossible, but it's a bit of a pain to bulldoze these, so we're just gonna leave it as it is. For this side, I think we do the wall again, going down to, that is not, oh, I don't like that. I don't know what I've managed to do with that surface right there. That is not even close to what I'm looking for, but I think I can hide my crimes a little bit there, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. And I think since we did a little corner with the walls at the other side, I think we'll do the same thing here. So we'll go up to about there, straight down to about there, and we'll just surround that corner with some walls. And I like the idea. I really like the idea that they would have, you know, saved some of those bricks. I don't know if they actually would, especially for sort of a very modern development like this. I don't know if they would bother saving those bricks, but I like the idea that they maybe did. And you know, I think this looks pretty solid. I think that's kind of a fantastic new medical center for Blackwater. It's got so much more capacity. It's got so many more ambulances. I'm not 100% sold on the Urban Promenades buildings. I do love those buildings. I just don't know if they necessarily fit with what I'm doing in Blackwater, but I think it's okay. I like the variety. I like the different shapes and sizes. I do like the grass on the roof, even if it's a bit odd, but I think this is pretty solid. Now, there is something kind of controversial that I'm thinking I'm gonna do, and it's gonna mean that I have to go in here and bulldoze some of these houses. I'm gonna get rid of quite a few of these guys because we don't have enough parking in this area, and I haven't yet played around with one of the new multi-story parking lots, which is something I would like to do. So I'm gonna do that. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna play around with the multi-story parking lot. It's the big one though. Well, not the big one, but it's one of this one. It's yeah. It's yeah. It's a multi-story parking lot, man. It fits in there pretty well. It would probably be necessary. I don't think there is enough parking around here at the moment, so this is what we're doing. That would probably be like the controversial part of this redevelopment, right? This, you know, there'd be some people in Blackwater looking at this going, man, I don't know about this. Them some new looking buildings. That's a very new looking hospital, but you know what? We do need a hospital. We do need doctors and staff and all that stuff. And then someone at, you know, the government, John F. Government, pulls them aside and goes, yeah, so you're really, so you don't like the new modern buildings. You're probably really not going to like what we're going to do across the street from that hospital. But don't you worry about that. You hit on. And yeah, they just snuck in a multi-story parking lot, basically. Whole lot of people getting kicked out of their homes for that. I probably didn't need to bulldoze the houses next to it, but what's done is done. That's where we're at. What's done is done. This thing at the very least has a capacity of 220 parked vehicles. It is also it is the cheapest parking in the city, aside from, you know, parking at the side of a road. So I think it's fine. I think it'll be okay. And I think we can detail. Oh, there's a back entrance to it. Interesting. I think we can detail across the back of this as well and just sort of bring it together in a way that's not going to look too bad. I think some bushes back here, some trees back here, just a nice little bit of detailing back here to kind of bring it all together and, well, hide some crimes. Basically, that's what we're doing. We're hiding some crimes, as we've done 100 times before on this channel. So we'll get some poplar trees across the back of it. We'll get a nice big, I don't know, chestnut tree in this corner. Seems like a fair idea. I think right about there. Little apple tree at the back of these buildings as well. Maybe another little poplar tree and probably some bushes. Just again to sort of hide everything that we have going on in there. And that's about as much detailing as I'm prepared to do to that thing. And you know, just because I can't stop myself, I think I'm going to get rid of these row houses in here completely. Because I realized that I could, if I wanted to, throw some Japanese mixed housing in here, and I think it looks neat. I do. I think it looks kind of neat. I don't love that there's sort of a gap between them. I think that's a little bit odd. But what I could do is maybe get a slightly smaller one and sort of stagger them down a little bit, giving us more space here for some greenery. And I just think it looks neat. I'm just sort of redeveloping the space. I'm going a bit crazy with it, but it's fine. It's a couple more shops. It's a couple more apartments. Maybe this wasn't necessarily part of the hospital redevelopment, but I think this kind of works. And I'm going to be kind of cheeky, and I am just going to use move it to push these guys together as much as I possibly can, which I think is about there. That is actually kind of perfect. We will level them to be the same height. And that looks good. It looks good. It's a cool little redevelopment of the space. I just can't stop myself sometimes. It's just kind of where I'm at. I just can't stop myself sometimes. It's okay though. We'll do a little path that goes back here, and it can actually we'll just do this. We'll just run this one straight through, even if it's not right up against the building. And that just gives us just a path straight through here. I think that's pretty solid. This one can maybe go away. We can extend the footprint of this building, which I am fine with doing. In fact, we can go in here and place one of the pocket parks. It's not behaving all too well at the moment, but we can sort of move it around until it does, which is, I guess, right about here. We can move it back a little bit until it starts complaining about not having a road connection, which honestly, that looks to be roughly in the middle there. So I think that's a decent enough little spot for it there. We will need to adjust that surface ever so slightly so it behaves in a way that kind of makes a bit more sense. So bring you down to there, bring this up to that corner, and you up to about there. It is misbehaving on this side as well, so just drag it out so it behaves properly. And that's a good little use of the space. I think I can probably put those bushes back in here since we don't necessarily need them now. So, or we didn't need to get rid of them in the first place. There was 2 meters between them. So right down to about there. And that looks all right. I do think I'd like to change that surface. I don't love it underneath that park. I think some tiles would maybe look a little bit better. I don't know if those ones, maybe the yellow ones. I think the yellow is a little bit much. I think these guys are pretty solid. I'm also noticing a gap right there. So let's just very quickly get that fixed. There we go. No more gaps on that, which is fantastic. So that gives a little bit of leisure to the space, a little bit more apartment living. We got plenty of parking. So all things considered, I think this is a pretty solid redevelopment for downtown Blackwater. I don't think there's anything else I want to do to it because at this point, I'm just going to overdo it, I think. I think we've hit a pretty good place with it, which is great. This isn't the only thing I want to do today, though. This is probably the second to last major development for Blackwater, though. I don't think we need another police headquarters. We have a decent one sort of in the background there, but I do think we need just one last suburb, and that's what I'm going to build in this space. But I don't just want to build just another suburb. I want to give it a little bit of character. I want to have a little bit of fun with it. I kind of have an idea of what I'm going to do with it, and I'm thinking I'm also going to go through and just take out all of these trees because let's be honest, I'm going to replace them anyway. It's me. That's what I do. All of these trees can be easily replaced. I also saw a comment recently which was mentioning that I should add more trees to my builds, and there's a like 90% of me read that and I was like, oh, it's someone being funny. And I thought it was funny. Don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining. But there's a small part of me was like, am I not doing enough for trees? Isn't that like my whole thing is just adding way too many trees to everything that I build in this game? There's a little part of me had just a little bit of doubt about what I've done with this build so far. So yeah, just thought I'd share. Anyway, my thinking for this space is I want to come off of Elizabeth Highway down here, and we're gonna go with just a standard 2-lane road. So we'll go for, I'd say about that spot should be totally fine. In fact, you know what? We'll go up this way and do this side instead. So we're gonna go to about there is what I'm thinking. And there's a couple of specific things that I want to build in here. And thing number one is going to be some death care. I want to build the UK Parish Church. And the reason I want to build this is because I was, once again, having a look at Google Maps, and something I noticed in a few of the towns along the Willamette River were a bunch of churches. And I figure we might as well have some churches in here as well. So a little UK Parish Church right about here just seems like a good place for it, next to some farms and whatnot. Just seems kind of neat. I might just move it a little bit so I can get some trees alongside of it here. And I was also thinking that I might try and build some kind of little park space back here, because I can play around with the different assets from the different graveyards and stuff. So I could put a little mausoleum back there. I might just do like a little forested area though. I don't think I want houses back here. I think this is just going to be at one end of a suburb. I was also thinking that across the street from it, and I don't know why I want to do this. Well, I sort of know why I want to do this. I want to place this guy. I want to place the medium solar panel covered parking lot. And I want to put it basically right there. And I want to see, can I get these guys? I can get these guys right next to it. I'm kind of tempted to do that. I don't think we need that much parking though, but my thinking in doing this was to come back to something I've talked about with City Skylines in the past, which is one of my favorite words, one of my favorite phrases. It is the word juxtaposition. It is the contrast between the new and the old. I love the idea that this parking lot is for this church and that the church has decided that they're going to put solar panels above the parking lots. Now, a lot of it, admittedly, is EV charging, and I don't know how many people going to this little church are going to have electric vehicles, but I like the idea that the church was like, you know what, we're going to put solar panels here. Maybe the church is run off of the solar panels. I don't know if that would be enough solar panels to do it, but it probably would be. So that's my thinking here. That's why I wanted this to exist. And then for the rest of this space, I want to come up here and I want a road that comes off of the highway right about there. It's going to run straight down to, we'll say, that spot. And these are all going to connect together, basically. This is all going to just be one big suburb. I was also kind of thinking I might get a little connection in here. That might be a bit much though. That might cause some problems. So I'll tell you what, we'll go to this spot and just bring something down. So this suburb's going to have 3 connections to the regional road. I guess they're all relatively close, except this one to other access points for Blackwater. I'm kind of just wanting to fill this space though. So I'm really, really not interested in making a suburb that's going to be, well, I was going to say planned, like the rest of my suburbs have been all, you know, meticulously planned out. They haven't been, but I just want to fill this space with another suburb. That's kind of where I'm at, really. So that's what I'm going to do. Alright, so this is going to be the rough road layout for the suburb. It's nothing too crazy, nothing too fancy, but I do think this could be a really good opportunity to address a little bit more of the elementary school demand that we have in Blackwater. Now, I wasn't thinking that we were going to go crazy with another elementary school today, but I figure we might as well, since we do have the demand for it and we have some options for what we can build. We do have the UK urban one, which honestly, it's a really cool looking building. Would that be okay over, can I get this over like by the church somewhere, maybe in like this space? I don't really know where I would put this, but it is admittedly a very cool looking building and I do kind of want to play with it. So you know what? It's gonna go, I don't know where it's gonna go. It's gonna go, I'm gonna say right in here on Ivy Street is where it's gonna go. And of course, it has a capacity of 500 students. We can increase that by another 500 and we can increase it again by 50 by building that little extension, which is fine. So 1,050 students is pretty solid for this. It actually has a decent little footprint and plenty of space where I can build paths so people can walk in and out, which is what I'm looking for. But I do think we should probably get some sports parks here. And I do think maybe another soccer field is going to be in order for this thing. I don't really know where I'm going to build it, but I do think another soccer field is the right call for this guy. Could I put it in front of it? Is that a bit much? It seems like a little bit much. I could put it sort of to the side of it if I got rid of some roads and adjusted some things, which I'm kind of inclined to do because I think, oh, right there is actually not a bad spot. Yeah, let's go for right in here for the soccer field. And I think I'm going to put it sort of this way around so that the stands are alongside this road, which we're going to have to get rid of because, you know, it's sort of in the way. right, so this kind of got away from me a little bit. It's not the most detailed education facility that I've ever built, but I think it does the job. It's got plenty of parks and recreation and things like that, and it has a pretty good capacity for students as well, which is what we're looking for. It's also got me thinking that I might make some changes to our little, I guess, parish church down here. And I think what I'm going to do is build a little alleyway that comes down the side of this facility. And I think I'm going to move the parking lot to the back because I think that's probably just a better spot for it. Makes it feel a little bit more, I don't know, like it belongs to the church, I guess. It does seem a little out of place though. And I'm kind of considering just not doing the parking lot, but I do love the idea of the parking lot sort of being, you know, solar powered. I love the idea that that's something the church is doing intentionally. I think that's kind of cool. So I think for now, we're going to keep it, even if it does look a little bit weird. I think we can kind of just make it work. I think the darker texture on it kind of blends everything together. And I think a little bit of move it could be used here just to level everything out. That might not be a bad idea, just to make sure everything's nice and level there. And there we go. We have this, whatever it is, all done, which means the last thing we need to do for this space is get a bunch of zoning into it, probably get a bus connection out here, and then just surround it in trees because it's me, and that's how I make things feel like they belong to a space. And there we go. We have another neighborhood. It's another suburb. It is probably almost definitely the last suburb that we're going to be building in Blackwater. And man, I wasn't going to build everything by hand, but I ended up putting every building in here by hand because it just sort of looks better when you do it that way. At least I think it does. Now, I do think a little bit of public transport coming out here is going to be really important. So that's something I want to try and get set up a little bit sooner than later. And I think the way we're going to try and do this is with some bus stop shelters to begin with. We're going to go say, well, I really don't want to get rid of the trees on that side of the road, but I think it's going to look better if I do put the bus stop down here to start with. So here and here, and we're going to have to get rid of the wider sidewalks. So that's going to be stop number 1. I would then like it to sort of come up into maybe this spot, especially since there's a little path right here. That might be a great spot, although it's, well, it's apparently having some trouble, which is which is interesting. Not really too sure what's going on there. I guess I could go for here and here instead, just to get rid of any issues with those buildings. So it can stop here, it can stop up there. That's relatively close to the school, which is fine. And I think I'm gonna have it sort of come down. I'm gonna have it stop over here as well. So we'll have 3 different stops in the neighborhood. I think just for these guys' sake, we're not gonna put a shelter in front of their house. We will put a sign though, and then a shelter on the other side. So the bus will sort of go through here, up here, over to here, down, and then I kind of want it to come up into this space. This was kind of my total plan with this, is have it sort of come down from the station, sort of down through all of this space, into this neighborhood, up into the commercial space, and then back to the station. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know if there's any point in doing that, but I like the idea that for pretty much all of my bus lines, you can hop on a bus and then get to the station eventually, even if it's not the most efficient way of doing things. It's just sort of how I like to do things here. So I think what we'll also do, given that we do have the new medical center here, is we'll hook up this new bus line, and it's going to be the last stop available with the current set of platforms. This thing can be expanded, but just for now, it's going to be that stop. We're going to have it loop around to here, which is nice and close to the medical center. We're going to have it, I guess, go, I'm going to say straight down this road. So it's going to come straight down here. It is going to hit the regional road right about there. And it's going to come down into this suburb. It is going to cut up to right about there, which I think we're going to have it go. I want it to go through the parking lot. I think that'll look kind of cool. So it's going to come down this road. It is going to loop down this way and around. And I don't exactly know where I want it to go in here. I could, I suppose, have it go to this other school, which might not be a bad idea. I kind of like that idea. I guess we'll have it sort of overlap with the green line, which I'm kind of okay with. I don't really mind it doing that. So we'll have it come back. We'll have it go into this space in the same way that the green line does, I suppose. We'll have it come over to here in the same way that that green line does. And then we're going to have it head out. So it does loop around this commercial area, but then it starts coming back and it's just going to sort of follow the line that it took to get here in the first place, which it can sort of do, I guess. It's a little messy. It's going to have to cross over itself in this particular spot, which I guess is fine. So it's going to just, I guess, cut straight through to there, and that's all right. And then it's going to go back. It's going to stop near the medical center, and somehow it's going to loop into there, which means cutting across itself as well. But that's honestly fine by me. Now, I would like to make sure that that line is set up. So bus line 6 is going to be set up with electric buses. It has 11 vehicles. I think we can bring that down to, we'll say 7 for now. And we'll see how that goes. It is, at the very least, a little bit of public transport that can get you to the church. It can get you to all of these parks. It can get you to the primary school, and it can sort of get you through this neighborhood as well, which I think is fantastic. And there we go. We have some buses coming through here, which is absolutely fantastic. I'm pretty sure we do have some people waiting around for some buses as well. I don't think there's anyone waiting to get to the primary school right now, which does look fantastic, by the way. The detail on that thing is absolutely incredible. Although I guess everyone waiting for a bus right now is waiting to go back into central Blackwater, as opposed to getting on a bus to go into the commercial side of Blackwater. It's fine. They're still waiting for a bus, which is good. This is what we want to see. And we do have a lot of buses coming out here, so we're going to have to play around with some numbers a little bit. I don't know that we're even going to need 7 buses out here, but all things considered, I'm really happy with what we've got done today. I love this redevelopment right here. It's so much more modern than what was here before, but it feels so much more deliberate, which it should, because the area that we got rid of, at least some of it, was some of the first stuff that we built in this series, which is now, what, 20 episodes deep and showing no signs of slowing down. I'm really, really enjoying Columbia County. I'm really enjoying building out Blackwater. I'm super excited to build more on this map. And I've said it before, and I will say it again. I do recommend, if you are coming back to Cities Skylines 2, if you're getting it over the holidays, if you got it in some sales recently and you're not sure about what you're doing, just go to the I almost said go to the Steam Workshop. That's not what we do anymore. Just go to Paradox Mods, find yourself a map that looks interesting. I knew nothing about the Willamette River other than that it existed before I started on this series. And whilst we're not trying to recreate anything, whilst I'm not trying to be super realistic, this has been a really fun journey so far. And, you know, 20 episodes is 20 episodes. I hope you've enjoyed them. I've really enjoyed them. There's plenty more to come in the near future. I suppose I'm getting a little bit carried away with my rambling here because it's the holidays, man. This is going to be one of the last videos of 2024, which has been a really fun year for getting back into Cities Skylines 2. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I appreciate each and every one of you for watching this series and sort of helping me get back into Cities Skylines 2 and just get back into really enjoying making videos again. Because it's definitely been an interesting few years for this channel. I feel like in these last few months, I've really found my stride with doing all this again. And yeah, I'm just really grateful that there's still people out there that seem to want to spend their time watching something that I made or commenting on something that I made. It's very difficult to sort of explain how much that means to me, and I'm trying to not get all soppy and silly at the end of this video, but I'll say what I've said a few times in the past, which is that I like to think of time as a currency, The only thing with time is it's the type of currency you can never earn back. So for better or worse, you've decided to spend some of your time watching my videos, watching this channel, even just watching this video, and I'm very, very grateful for that. So what I'm trying to say is that's going to do us for today. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. It has been an absolute pleasure, as always. And as always, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.